In the last video, we modified the Drift Truck's tube chassis to accept a Nissan S13 FDF Mantis Angle Kit. Once the tube chassis was modified, we were able to bolt in the FDF Angle Kit, put on some wheels, and bask in the glorious amount of angle that this drift truck now has. So now that we know that the angle kit works, the front chassis is more or less right, that means we can go ahead and take all the suspension back out. We're not gonna fully weld everything yet, but at least do a bead on everything. That way, once the rear suspension is done, we can put it on the ground and test it. So, let's pull it all out. We'll also take this time to actually go ahead and weld up the subframe, paint it, make it look nice, and put the actual bushings into here once we get those. So I went ahead and welded a small bead on pretty much every joint. I should have just welded it up entirely, but I have a little bit of PTSD from almost having to rebuild the entire suspension. With the welding I did now, we'll be able to put the truck on the ground once the rear suspension is done, just to make sure it still is working. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but just to make sure. And if something happens to be wrong, it's a little bit less work to fix it. Anyway, now we're gonna go ahead and work on getting this front chassis a little bit cooler and a little bit stronger. So we're gonna make a big gusset plate coming along this entire main bar, going up to where the fender mounts, which that is the reason why we put the couplers where we did, because I wanted this bar to be with the actual cab. And then we're also gonna do the gusset plate for the A-pillar bars. I've had these gusset tool from Eastwood. I guess they're technically dimple dies. The plate is the gusset, the whole thing is a dimple die. This combined with the plasma cutter should be nice and easy. Cool. So we got our gusset plate right here, looking all nice, but it's not a true gusset plate until we put the dimple dies in. So we got our die, put it in the die, and mash it down until it's nice and flush. There you go. Take it out of the machine, and voila. Jesus Christ, bro. You got yourself three-dimensional little dimple die. Just gotta do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more times. Voila! Now we got a real gusset plate. So we got these welded in and we cut the wheel wells out a little bit more. It's awesome because this is where the fender mounts and it's still nice and sturdy. So now the next step in finishing the front end is to go ahead and tub it. So we're not making full wheel wells. Obviously this we're leaving open because it's cool, and yeah, pretty much that's it. But if you look over here, even with the previous setup and the small amount of angle that had, it was having some issues with hitting the wheel well. So pretty much we're going to tub it, which means we're gonna cut out a notch and make it a bigger wheel well. Now that will slightly ruin foot space, but it's okay, we got plenty. It's a truck. That's the nice thing about modifying a truck. Damn, bro. It's much harder to figure out exactly how you want to cut it than it is to build it, because now it's just 2 sheets. One sheet going straight up there and then one sheet curved along this. 'Would you look at that? So before we close this off and weld in the tub, I'm gonna go ahead and weld the back of this roll cage box right here because I can reach it now. Convenient. That's actually the real reason why I did this. .75 by like 20 and a quarter. Oh, not fucking hurt. So the passenger side wheel tub is in, welded both on the outside and the inside. My first wheel tub I've ever made, so I'm not perfectly happy with it. It's a bit big, probably not actually quite tall enough. So it's like I made it too deep and not tall enough. The problem with that is that I still think the tire might hit this corner right here. So we will probably cut a plate, like a little triangle out of this corner and plate that. The other issue is that if this was on the other side, you know, it's gonna get in the way of the pedals a bit. I think I am still going to make this big of a tub on the other side. We're gonna be doing a pedal box on this thing, like a Willwood pedal box. In order to do that, we have to notch the front of the floor anyway. So I think what we'll pretty much do is we'll make the tub over there. Once we get the pedal box, we'll notch the tub that we've made along with the floor to fit the pedal box nicely. We're also gonna have a new trans tunnel and the firewall, so yeah, we're modifying a lot of this stuff, but better to do it now than to do it later. Now I gotta try to replicate this cut on the other side. Ow. Oh my gosh, I got so lucky there. So now that we have the front chassis pretty much all done, we're gonna put the suspension back in, but this time we're gonna actually bolt it in instead of just throwing it together. You know, we're gonna do things like make sure both the tie rods are the same length, make sure all the control arms are on the same length, you know, actually tighten all the heim joints and everything. So, let's do it. Okay. I'm pretty much just picking a number and setting all this stuff to that number, so at least it'll all be the same, And then obviously once it's on the truck, we can adjust it, but it's easier to start from a point where everything's the same, you know? I'm sure you get it, you know? I definitely know what I'm doing here with all these adjustments, definitely. Like Ackerman, what the hell? I mean, I know what that is. Definitely know what that is. Obviously, these rack offset spacers aren't technically supposed to work with a bellows kit because, you know, normally there's a normal outer tie rod or inner tie rod that it goes over. But I figured we can buy them and kind of cut them up to at least kind of fit over the, you know, shaft that is exposed. Yo, water red Loctite. If I've learned anything from the 240 boys, it's that. So these actually have a little set screw too, which is pretty sick. With that, we can put this thing in. One last thing we gotta do. If you look closely, there's something wrong with that steering rack. What did I say 2 seconds ago? I forgot, because that steering rack is perfect. I think I'm scratching my wheel. My very perfect, you know, conditioned wheel. That definitely doesn't have any damage. A little bit more camber, a little bit more drift car stance. It actually doesn't necessarily look quite as wild without the fenders on it because you can't tell how wide it is. But man, with the gussets and everything, it looks so good. About this wheel tub, let's see here. Full lock left. Once it's, you know, 5 inches lower, because that's how low it's gonna be. No, just kidding. This corner right here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but that looks dangerous. So I think we're going to kind of put a little notch right there where that corner is. But in terms of everything else, I mean, I don't think it's gonna hit back there. I don't think there's really any possibility for that hitting that. That's really far away. And I don't think it's gonna hit there. And I think it definitely would have with the stock wheel well. So glad we did that. Full lock right. Gosh, it doesn't look real. It's so sick. I'm just so happy with this. Now it really deserves like a 600 wheel horsepower 1UZ, not a 300 wheel horsepower 1UZ. What do you say we put the fenders on and like the front bumper on? Broken bumper and the old fenders are test fitted. We do have new wider fenders. They're the 4-wheel drive fenders from the 4-wheel drive truck. Probably not gonna be wide enough still. We're gonna have to widen it more. But this looks sweet. I love how the gussets came out, like lining flush up with the fenders. That was definitely a W. Like once this, you know, nice clean supercharged 1UZ sitting in here, bro, this is gonna be so sick. Never seen that before on a truck, that's for dang sure. It really needs the headlights and the grille to look complete, but that's a little bit too much effort for just to look at it. At first glance, it kind of looks the same as it did at the end of the last video, but the front chassis is done. I mean, besides 100% welding it, there's nothing else being added. Oh, and one little support bar there, but yeah, it's no big deal. In the next video, we're gonna work on the back. And that's gonna be a whole, probably another set of videos, because we gotta notch the frame better. You gotta do the cage coming down to the back of this frame. We have to shorten the solid axle and redo the brackets on the solid axle. We have to redo the brackets for the front of the forelink. We have to do the new coilovers and cantilever setup. We have to do a new panhard bar. Now most of that stuff is relatively simple, but it's gonna be time consuming. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. One more time to bless your eyes. Bam. It's wild. I absolutely can't wait to drive this thing. If you want to watch the next video, it has a schedule. You can click up there, become a patron. You also get access to exclusive posts, potentially free merchandise as well, exclusive drift truck t-shirt and exclusive drift truck sticker. If you want to look at the other merch that you can purchase, go over to emindustries.com. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.